What's up, guys? This is Kephas.
World of Warcraft, quite frankly, has become way too complicated, and I know I'm not the only one that thinks so. WoW isn't a bad game. It's a lot of fun, actually. It has some of the best class fantasy, raid design, and world building in the MMO space. But there's a growing problem in its design philosophy that's quietly alienating a lot of players. It's not about how hard the game is or how much there is to learn, it's about where that difficulty is. And as someone who's played WoW since the early days and who's also visually impaired, this stuff especially hits close to home. Let's talk about why WoW feels harder to play than it should be. Not because we're afraid of challenge, I love hard games, but because the challenge in WoW is often in the wrong place, and it's turning away the very players who used to love it. Complexity isn't the enemy. To be clear, I love complex games. I've been sinking tons of hours into Factorio lately, a game where I literally lose track of time while trying to optimize my factory. You start small with a couple mining drills and a burner furnace. Before long, you're dealing with fluid dynamics, rail networks, power grids, and launch sequences. The game ramps complexity naturally, not by overwhelming you with weird controls, but by challenging your decisions. I also love Minecraft, especially with mod packs like SevTech Ages and GregTech New Horizons. Right now I've been playing with all the mods 10. These packs are brutal, especially GregTech, which turns basic crafting into multi-step industrial chains. Want a machine case? That's 10 steps. Want power? Prepare to manage outages, cables, converters, and explosions. And yet, despite all the brain-melting complexity, I keep coming back. Even a game like Civ 6. Is it the most complex 4X game ever? Maybe not, but for most people, it's deep. Every choice, build order, policy cards, diplomacy, layers together. You're not lost pressing buttons, you're navigating an ever-evolving strategy. And then you've got games like Elden Ring and Tears of the Kingdom. These games don't really hold your hand, but they do subtly teach you as you go. They're completely playable. You're able to figure them out. Why? Because their core gameplay loop is simple. Factorio, move, click, build. Simple actions with complex choices. Minecraft, one button to break, one to place. Movement is intuitive. The game lets you build your own complexity. Elden Ring, light attack, heavy attack, block, roll. Easy to pick up and play, but the challenge itself comes from the world. The brilliance of these games is that they can be some of the most complex and challenging games out there, and yet their core gameplay is intuitive. WoW used to be the same way. I remember leveling a hunter in the early days and thinking, okay, start with Hunter's Mark, throw out Arcane Shot on cooldown, let auto shots hit in between, and maybe throw up a Serpent Sting here or there. Was I playing optimally? Probably not. Did I feel engaged? Absolutely, especially when you consider that I also had to manage my pets' happiness, keep them fed, keep food for myself, and keep up with arrows. Other forms of complexity layered on top of the core gameplay, which was rather simple. Same goes for Frostmage. Yeah, there are endless memes about spamming Frostbolt, which are pretty much true. You really did, in single target, just spam Frostbolt. But you also had AoE farming, where you would round up mobs, throw out Frost Nova, blink away, and drop Blizzard. Suddenly, the class feels kinda clever, even though it's still relatively simple. But these days, it's a mess. Today, even playing a mid-level spec often feels like trying to solo an orchestra blindfolded. Everything dumps abilities on you without any context. There's no sense of learning, just downloading knowledge from Icy Veins or Wowhead. By the time you hit max level, you're expected to track 4 to 6 cooldowns with different timers, react to procs instantly, memorize opener sequence that sometimes span 10 to 20 global cooldowns, maintain uptime while dodging mechanics, and God help you, learn the exact timing for stacking cooldowns, trinkets, and other random abilities. You're not just learning a class, you're learning a job. Take Retribution Paladin. At its core, it's about building and spending combo points. relatively easy to understand, I suppose, but just looking at what you're actually doing, you've got Judgment, Blade of Justice, Hammer of Wrath, and maybe even Crusader Strike, all holy power builders, functionally different in minor ways, but in practice, they feel the same. Press a button, get resource, repeat. And there's nothing inherently wrong with holy power. The problem is that every button feels like a copy of the last. They aren't really decisions, they're chores. Pick the one that comes up first and don't overcap. And now contrast that with Fire Mage. It's simple. Get 2 crits, get Hot Streak, do Pyroblast. There's feedback, there's rhythm, it's easy to understand, and there's also payoff. And the better your gear gets, the more frequent and fluid it feels. The fantasy of building a fire is actually in the gameplay. Get 2 crits, kind of like rubbing 2 sticks together to get a spark. Or look at Demonology Warlock. You're building a demon army, stacking imps, dreadstalkers, vile fiends, and then extending their lives with a tyrant. It's like a house of cards. You build tension, then you unleash it. Even Fury Warrior, you're building rage, dumping it into rampage to get angry so that you can build more rage and do more rampage to stay angry. Clean, but again, issues show up. Raging Blow, Bloodthirst, Execute, they all kind of feel like hit thing really hard. It's not clear what role each button plays in the loop. It's just hit the first one that comes up, kind of like a game of whack-a-mole. Depth comes from decision making, not more buttons. And this matters because when your core loop is hard to parse, players quit. Casuals bounce. Disabled players like myself turn to the single button assistant, not because we want to, but because the alternative feels impossible. You shouldn't need hour-long YouTube videos just to start playing. Add-ons like WeakOrs or DBM to track things, external talent calculators or import strings to play the right spec correctly. That's not depth, that's shallow complexity. The game now assumes that players will just look it up, and honestly, that's normal to an extent. It's good for communities to collaborate and learn from each other. That's a healthy thing. But the problem is that the devs are designing with that in mind. They're not designing the game, they're basically outsourcing it to the community, making it more complicated each time. And WoW isn't harder than Elden Ring, but Elden Ring kills you because you made a mistake. You learn. WoW kills you because you missed your 5-second window to align a proc with the trinket cooldown while dancing around a raid mechanic. One feels fair, the other feels like homework. So how do we fix it? Well, I certainly don't WoW to go full classic where I spam Frostbolt for 40 levels. What I do want is a design that respects the player. And here's what that looks like to me. Clear core gameplay loop. Each spec should have a focused, maybe 3 to 5 button loop that defines how it plays. Let the theme guide the mechanics. Distinct abilities. Make buttons feel different, each serving its own purpose. Make them feel distinct enough so that I actually feel like I'm making choices and not just a game of whack-a-mole. Natural progression. Space out ability unlocks and let players experiment, not just memorize. Spread out the game's complexity instead of jamming it all into rotations and encounters. WoW's complexity doesn't need to be dumbed down, it just needs to be refocused. It doesn't need less content, it needs clearer gameplay. Let players engage with the world, not wrestle with their UI. Let them feel powerful from moment one so they know when they're doing something right, not after 3 hours of guide watching. Let mastery feel earned, not outsourced. The best games like Elden Ring, Minecraft, Factorio, they invite you in with simplicity and challenge you with depth. WoW can do the same, and it has before, but it has to shift its focus. Because when I can beat Elden Ring with a controller and no mods, but need rotation assistance and DBM to play WoW, something's wrong. Let the core loop be clear. Let the depth grow from there, and maybe WoW can feel timeless again. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I just want to say thank you so much for sticking around and taking the time to listen. If you made it this far, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What games do you think get it right, and what would you change in WoW to fix it? I'd love to hear from you. But with all that being said, I will see you guys on the next one.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button, and feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. And if you'd like to see more videos, you can subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook, and if you'd like, you can support my work on Patreon. Links to all that stuff can be found in the description below. This is Kephas, until next time.